anything. All right.
All right.
Hold on. I gotta get.
Hey guys,
Hey,
we're
everybody.
just getting started.
Getting
We're
all these streams fired up here.
launching Insta and Bookface and
TubeU.
yeah, TubeU. Is that taken? TubeU.com.
Probably.
It's a really good idea. Yeah. We're just getting things going. So thanks for joining us this morning.
Should be good.
Are we live on all the platforms?
We are platformed up and running here. Oh, good. Okay.
All right, guys. Hey, it's Javad and Nate and Nick off camera. The eighth YouTube,
all the
Facebook,
things, yeah,
Instagram, live chat.
Q&A chat thing.
Number 8, quarantine edition. Thanks for joining us yet another week. Please put in your questions if you have them. Anything you want to know. Certainly anything 034 related. Anything general automotive. If there's anything like, gee, I wonder how that works, or that doesn't make sense, or whatever.
What is this? Yeah, word salad you guys are talking about all day.
Yeah, what do the things on my car do? We'll definitely take our best shots at answering your questions with our combined knowledge and experience, and certainly any questions about 034 Motorsport products, our product line,
Noah.
all that stuff. We're here. So apparently someone made a funny comment.
I'm sorry, Noah. We don't have a legal team at your disposal for going 172 and a 65.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Although Nate and I,
whoa, what am I getting in?
we were in. Well, remember that one time I was doing like 170 and I got off.
I do remember that. Yeah, we were
like high fives.
We were on ramping near the shop here, and
well, it's the Mexico
RS500
border.
Yeah,
it's right now.
South a bit.
Shop, yeah.
It's that on ramps way down.
Yeah, I think the key, Noah, is, and this is not legal advice, and don't listen to anything I'm saying, but at some point with the right CHP or police,
Mexican authorities,
if you go past a certain speed, it goes from being very illegal, you go to jail, to that's amazing, I can't believe you were going that fast, you're an incredible driver, nice job. So,
yeah,
but
55, you need. Oh no, you did 172.
172 and a 65. That might be a little.
I mean, 172 should be enough to do that, or send you to jail. You just don't know. So it's a lot like F1 arrow. You know, it either helps you stay down in the corner, or it sends you up into the sky and you die. So if you're concerned about it, then just
don't listen to us. But
be more careful, or accept the consequences as they come. Which is, I think I've done a combination of both. So
yeah.
Anyways, this has come up before. If we're saying things that you don't understand from a technical standpoint, technically speaking, then please comment, ask for clarification. We'll be happy to put it in different, more layman's terms. And feel free to research online as well. There's a lot of bad information, but a lot of good. Yeah. And just you got to figure out how to sift through the good and the bad. So why don't we get started? We have some questions coming in already. So two-step launch control for the 6-speed manual B8.
B8 questions from the start again.
Yeah.
Yes, we are. That's it keeps coming up. But yes, we're working on that. Mm-hmm. It is going to be available. We're looking at doing both two-step launch, or a launch control method for the manual cars, as well as a flat shift if we determine that makes enough sense to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those are definitely very feasible.
Yeah, it's definitely something we're working on. The really fast setups are DSG, and we have a very good launch.
There's a lot of stuff that comes into play with the manual stuff to get it right, to get it so it actually works and isn't just a novelty. The clutch engagement points would become a big, pretty critical factor. You can have it, a sustained hold RPM, but then you got to make sure you're not releasing that launch point, that hold point too soon. as the clutches come out. A lot of times you can get the clutch switch will release, but you're not necessarily fully engaged yet at the engine. So you can just send the revs to the moon if it's just a few, handful of milliseconds.
A lot of it is more than just is the clutch in or out at whatever arbitrary point the switch.
We have to start controlling the rollout.
You really want to know what's the clutch position in relation to other factors like throttle and wheel speed, engine RPM. So.
Yeah. So currently, we're doing. Nick was asking if we can look at wheel speed. Yes, wheel speed's all in there, all four wheels.
Right, from the ABS sensors.
So yeah, it's all there. Like our fan control right now is wheel speed based. So as soon as the vehicle's moving, the fans turn off for our automated control. And then it's dependent on like cruise control switch position. And so yeah, basically anything that affects the wheels turning, we can take a look at and use as a variable in the ECU.
Why don't we take a moment to talk about the new B8 updates that we released this week?
Oh yeah, last week. There we go.
Cool.
Last week, a bunch of updates came out for some B8 TCU tunes, which created a lot of excitement over the weekend.
Yeah, actually really cool.
Yeah, so they were updates to fix a couple of issues that actually came to light last week that we weren't quite aware were so prevalent with some of the B8.5 guys. They were getting like a crunchy or a sharp 1-2 shift.
Yeah. Which is real common on DSGs, and it's fixable.
Yeah. So, and that was something.
Even the factory cars.
It was a compilation of some updates we had made for the B8 car, and then some updates for the B8 style boxes, and then some updates we had made for the B8.5. And when we were joining them, there were some side effects between the two. So they got a little too sharp on the B8.5, and then we had some launch control, setup. We had to sort out again on the B8. So we got both of those addressed last week, and then rolled out a big update. And we more clearly defined our multi-step launch, which we've actually had since the very beginning. We've had pedal-based, accelerator pedal-based launch hold points. We haven't labeled them super clearly on the server. Generally, they're between 500 and 1,000 RPM offset from the peak RPM that we list. So I just made a point of clearly defining exactly the brake hold points for each of those pedal stops.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, it's people are using it now. A bunch of people have updated and loved it. So
yeah,
I think we're hitting a good setup all around for both chassis.
Yeah. That RPM in the future.
Depends. I mean, it's where we settled. And Nick was asking if there's going to be different midpoint hold RPM. It depends what works for people. Right now, this is kind of the most common request that I was seeing for the RPM points. So 2.5 is either right now. So there's 3 hold points. It's 2.5 1,000 RPM, 3,000 or 4,000. Basically, I was getting requests for people that they wanted that. Each one of those iterations was covers like 90% of or 99% of everybody out there. So now they can do it all with one program. The 2.5 works for street tires on less than ideal traction conditions. 3,000 is what a lot of guys end up using with better setups or warmed up tires, or they've got some decent grip. 4,000 if you've got some really good grip, or you're doing like a launch box or something to get some heat in the tires.
Yeah. But it pretty much fogs the tires.
Most setups are going to fog tires. If you've got like a stage 1 or pretty mild ECU tune, you might be able to get away with it. But it's going to be pretty high for most setups on these cars.
So yeah, we're excited to see what you guys do with these updates, and
and it kind of brought
a lot of positive.
Yeah, it brought to light. We had a lot of guys that kind of replied to another customer on Facebook asking if that sharp 1-2 shift was normal, and I saw 15, 20 guys that's what mine did after the flash. These were people that were just driving it and hadn't said anything to us directly,
and we hadn't seen it.
So we hadn't seen it. So I was like, oh well, this is something that a lot of these guys are just dealing with. We don't want you to have to compromise with something like that. If there's any way around it, let us know.
It's fixable. There's just so many different box codes out there, and especially when there's model updates like from the B8.5.
Some generational changes in the firmware, the way they handle some of these variables.
So we just need to know about it, and as soon as we know what's going on, then we can jump on it. I mean, I think in a few days, Nate had
the next day is when that update hit, because we had a bunch of people comment about it. So it's an easy thing to address when we know about it.
Covered with this update, some.
Right.
Just ping us if you're looking for it, and I'll go through it. I can do it.
Yeah. Just email tuning@034motorsport.com.
But yeah, I'm working on getting them all. I've gotten, I'd say, probably 90% of the coverage done for all the common stuff.
but certainly if you need it and you want it, we'll prioritize that higher than the generic list.
Yep.
We want to make sure you guys are taken care
Yep.
of. So
Yeah, like Jose is saying, he's got an A6. So so some of those are the less common. That's yep, we can certainly get to that. It's just haven't gone through all of them yet because we're trying to get as many of the big ones out as quick as we could.
So there's another question here. How does the pedal adjustable launch control work? Why no fuel cut launch?
So the pedal, it's literally a map, depending on how much pedal travel you put in.
The throttle position.
Yeah, the transmission controller is going to
There's a table with throttle position and RPM hold.
Yep. And then that's what the transmission controller is going to use to, tell the ECU when to stop revving and to hold an RPM. So
and that is a factory map inside the ECU.
Yeah.
But so is so are the fuel tables, so are the ignition.
So is everything.
Like literally 99%.
Everything we're doing. Yeah. Everything we're doing in the TCU is all
Yeah.
within the factory.
So somebody out there was making a point that it's not a big deal because it's just a factory map, but I mean,
no, we're making it all work together.
It's not. We're not here to say anything's a big deal. We're just here to say it works great, and you put it on your car, and you're gonna have fun. And certainly, if you have any issues, we'll address it. So that's always our goal.
No, there are.
I mean, whether there are or there aren't other tuners, it really has nothing to do with anything. We're not saying buy our tune because it has this launch control, one launch control, right? It's a whole. When you're driving your car and how the car accelerates on and off throttle, how safe is it? How how does the ECU deal with detonation or?
That's how it all works together.
There's thousands of factors on why you should buy a tune. And we've added this one feature, or we've had it for a while now.
Basically, it's more just clarifying. This one feature was been there for a while.
I think you look at some of the fastest cars in the world are running our tuning. So there's a lot of reasons to go with 034. We're always gonna just talk about why you should buy our tune, and we work really hard to make sure that you guys are happy with them.
Yep.
And there's other options out there, and I guess buyer beware. Carpe diem or whatever it is.
Just educate yourself
be careful
and talk to the tuner as much as you need to figure out what's going to work for you. But and then that brings up the two-step. It's another thing that we get a lot of requests for it. It's, in my opinion, it's not needed on these cars.
Currently there's no two-step car that launches faster than our launching.
No.
The top 3 or so cars, the fastest documented recorded are with our launch control, not a two-step.
Yeah, and so it comes down a little more to, it's still your car. What do you want it to do?
Sure.
We're completely, we're not against, features that people want. It does serve a function.
The pops and bangs is kind of cool, or whatever, and it's dumping fuel into the exhaust and it's detonating. So we're gonna release it because there's people that want it.
Yeah,
we're just not here to say that it's gonna be faster or better, in a substantive way. But if you guys want that feature, it's easy enough for us to do, and we will add it.
Yeah, and I'm actually looking at making it tie into that TCU step hold, so you'll actually have a multi-step two-step.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the idea.
But two steps go back to the hot rod days when there was a distributor and a simple,
it's literally just cutting spark.
And so it's like, pop, pop, and once a certain rotational speed happens inside the distributor, a little box starts dropping ignition, and the fuel's still going through the carburetor. This is two-step goes back to the 60s. And so that fuel is just exploding in the hot exhaust as it passes through the combustion chamber, but there's no load. The engine's not loading up, and so our goal is to give you some load, so you're leaving the line with the motor making power and boost. Load is what creates that power.
Yeah, it's just not something that we really are struggling for right now in the 3-liter.
There's actually way too much power. Yeah, so most of you guys are going to be the fastest launching at 2,500.
Right.
So a two-step just sounds cool. You can engage it when you're at the stoplight or you're leaving cars and coffee, and you don't even have to launch with it. But
crosswalks.
It does sound cool, and sounds like gunfire or something. I don't know. So
most people like think it's broken.
Yeah. Cool. I think what are the soft launch files in the list?
So those are on the ECU side. Those are currently a lot of guys with the manual transmissions are having pretty good success with those. Basically, it's a reduced power output in first gear only to help them
Right.
get off the line and kind of manage some of that power onset.
Mhm.
So like Jay Bullington and some of the other guys are running that and having some pretty good results getting off the line much more consistently.
Yeah.
Not just, again, fogging the tires.
Yeah, you just don't need as much power in first.
Yeah,
It's such
you
a
can- you-
short gear.
These 2+ cars on E40, you can literally just roll into it in first and break all four
Mhm.
wheels loose. So there's,
Yeah, I mean, in our race cars,
if you're looking to actually race the car, you need that to
yeah,
not happen.
yeah. I mean, with a turbocharged car, typically you want to launch with almost as little boost as you can. I mean, some load it up, but once the clutch is engaged, you don't need 800 wheel in the first gear. It's
Yeah.
almost never, unless you have like
All
the right
tire.
setup. Yeah, wrinkle slicks. And
Yeah.
everything.
Well, and this is on Jay's car, which is, I mean, he's got massive tires and whatnot under it, and he's still benefiting from it. So there's
Yeah.
there's very few that are
Yeah. So one of the customers that we know with the most traction, the most grip, is benefiting
in full
from this
autocross
file.
setup.
Yeah.
So it's designed to get off the line,
Yeah.
fold and go.
Yeah, so soft launch just means reduced power output in first gear.
Yep.
What features do I get with my stage 1 ECU and TCU tuning on my B8? Oh, it's like B8
It's all the V8 stuff. this
tuning
week.
day, which is great. We
Yeah.
love it.
You get a lot.
Crackles, octane files, launch files.
Yeah,
etc.
so Octane files, pretty much everything on the V8. We do 91, 93, 100, 104, and we're starting to roll out E40 for the stage 1 as well. And then we're also
Currently we
offering-
have it for stage 2.
We have it for both stage 1 and stage 2. They're rolling out. 2+ has everything.
Okay, I guess 2 plus.
Yeah. We are updating it. The 1 and 2 stuff. as we can.
E40 on stage 1 is still nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice bump in power.
Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
good.
So yeah, all those. If you don't see them up there, we can get them up along with test pipe on all of those as well. What we're doing now is basically the test pipe files are going to be your Crackle overrun files by default, just because that's the most common configuration. And then I've got some guys that have test pipes that don't want Crackle overrun. Just let us know. We'll get them up as you need. So launch files. We actually only do a single TCU level currently for the cars. We don't have a need to do
Yeah, multiple.
specific
All right.
because we're correctly dealing with the torque and the outputs from the ECU. We don't have to do all
Yeah,
these
so
custom.
one file can handle all the
Yep.
stages.
So you're getting all the same files that our record-setting
Yeah.
2+ guys are getting for the TCU side.
And as the ECU dials a boost, the TCU tuning responds to that. So
Yep.
they're in harmony like they should be.
Mhm.
Really, every tuner out there should just have one.
Yeah,
transfer.
unfortunately, most ECU tunes out there, you're going to see basically the same torque numbers coming out of the ECU from stage 1 to 2+. That's why you start getting weird shifting as you go up and up and
Right.
more.
So that's why there's the need for separate TCU files.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
How does ZF8 tuning differ from DSG? Does B8 ZF tune work for the B9 ZF?
It is all the different.
It's different. The ZF8's an automatic transmission.
Yeah.
Like in the
Yeah.
sense that it has a torque converter. It just happens to have 8 speeds, which is awesome.
Yep.
And the DSG is an automatically shifted
Yeah,
transmission.
An
but
automated manual transmission.
It's not.
essentially, so
It's not an automatic transmission in the sense that there is no torque converter and
Yeah,
it doesn't use like witchcraft.
you're physically
to shift.
decoupling your input shafts when
Yeah.
you're making those gear changes and clutch releases.
Yeah.
So they're very different from an internal structure standpoint.
But the ZF8 is an awesome transmission from ZF. It's also manufactured by Fiat Chrysler here in the U.S. and it's one of these kind of world
Dude, it's
world
used in everything,
transmissions. I mean,
yeah.
it's used from industrial trucks, like literally the same transmission, to sports cars and
Yeah, there's really not much different between like a Dodge Hemi with a
Yeah,
8
right.
speed behind it
It's-
versus the
yeah.
Audi Boxes. They're essentially the same.
I have a friend who actually works at Fiat Chrysler in Indiana, and he said they have 17 different part numbers that come off the line, but it's the same transmission. And then depending on what they flash it with, it goes out of the production line as a different up to 17 different part numbers, just based on the programming. So
Yep.
if you don't like the way your ZF8 shifts, that's very likely fixable. And we've I've driven ZF8s that if I hadn't been in a DSG car for a little bit, I'd kind of think it was a DSG. You know, you
Pretty
can make
close.
it.
It's
You can make it shift.
it's not
really
your stereotypical automatic.
It's nothing like the automatic of the
Of like the
yesteryear,
90s,
like
yeah,
the
80s,
the
90s.
4-speed Tiptronic
the
garbage.
slushy, squishy.
Yeah. So
transmission.
it's actually really nice, but I do notice when I go from the B9S4 back into the R8, it's like, okay, well that's definitely not.
It's not the
The
same.
R8
stuff.
has a really good DSG,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
the programming is really nice, even right from the factory. It's very aggressive.
Yep. You still have that direct mechanical link.
Yeah. So the
the-
B8 ZF8 is not compatible with the B9.
No, they're very different.
We'll be releasing a B9.
Yeah,
file.
the software structure internally, one's a FlexRay, one's a CAN bus. There's some just generational architecture.
Even though
differences.
the hardware is very similar, likely between the two cars.
Oh yeah,
but
yeah. The actual
same.
mechanics, it's
Yeah.
again, it comes down to the software
Yeah.
and the controls for it. The flashing
But the
algorithms are a little
right from the factory, the B9 tuning is much nicer than what the B8 got.
on the S4. Yeah,
Yeah, like the B9S4 and the
Yep.
RS5 are just stock, or really like when you go into sport mode, it's a really fun car to
Yep.
shift, and then we can even improve that substantially. So, all right,
Got another guy here.
yeah.
But Dogbone insert in 2015 S3. There's a lot of rumble when I ease off the brake and roll for a bit. I'm not sure if you just did the bottom. I've had some guys that have done the install and actually didn't quite get it seated right, so it kind of forces in there and
Yeah,
and
this is
doesn't
the
really
dog bone
feed.
inserts that
Yeah.
we sell.
No, normally there
shouldn't be any weird rumbling or a lot of extra NVH. Although in DSGs we get feedback that in like reverse, but the DSG just generates a lot of
Yeah, it depends on the
vibration.
rest of your mounts too. So normally
But-
there's not a lot of
You may want to take
negatives to
things
it.
apart and put it back together, and
just make sure that mount is really, very little force to get up seated flat, and then you're
if you have to force the mount in there and things are loaded up onto the mount, then of course that's going to generate more NVH. Like what Nate's saying is you want the motor, in equilibrium.
neutral on the mount,
relatively
so it's not-
neutral, so that it's not loading, so that dog bone can slide in and out relatively easily without already being preloaded. The preload is what would give you. But this is not a common issue, but I think we do hear about it every once in a while, and it's not something that we see in the installations we do.
Yep.
So we have a question. We've had questions about 4.0T motor mounts, and we have mentioned that we've been working on them. And so these are our pre-production samples from the manufacturer that we work with. And so this is a 4.0T density line motor mount. We will be releasing street density initially, and we may not do track, but if you guys really want it later on, we can. But this should be all that anyone needs. And so
if we
we
end up going to track, I think we might end up doing like what we did with the B8, where it's the billet setup.
Yeah, we could do the billet setup, but I don't think the cars are there right yet.
Yeah, it's
People aren't going hardcore race setups with the 4.0T quite yet. But there's really no aftermarket option. If your factory 4.0T mounts go bad, and they're like $600 each from the dealer,
and a lot of labor to put them in.
Yeah, so this is our density line mount. It is the same architecture and configuration as the factory mount. I mean, at a distance, you wouldn't really be able to tell the difference. However, all the hydraulic valving parts inside here we have removed, and we've re-engineered the mount with solid rubber of a specific durometer, and we've re-engineered the voids inside the mount to give what we believe is a much better driving experience, possible slight notice of NVH, much more durable mount. So the factory mounts, that once that valving inside fails, which is quite common, the hydraulic fluid leaks out. The mount essentially collapses because it's supposed to be filled with fluid.
Yep.
Once that's gone, the rest of the rubber, there's just not much of it.
Yeah, and it allows so much more movement on this piece normally, even when it's fully functioning, that you start getting all this splitting and cracking here just over time. It's through its normal range of motion.
Yeah.
So there's a number of failure points in the factory mounts.
So we're currently doing our on-the-road testing and validation on an in-house car as well as a customer car. Kind of a someone who's willing to give them a test and let us know what
Give
they
us
think.
feedback on it. Yep.
Yeah, so keep an eye out for this product. I think we'll be releasing it this summer. We anticipate that our testing should go well, and once we've confirmed that, we can get them out to the market.
Yep.
So hopefully you guys appreciate these. The pricing will be much more reasonable than the factory mounts, and we're confident that this is a OEM plus type upgrade. Much with our philosophy of just if Audi wanted to make a more durable, higher performing motor mount, what would they have done? And so that's our goal with this product. So keep an eye out for that. Appreciate it. If anyone has any questions, throw them up right now. But we'll keep moving down the list. Will the flex fuel setups utilize 034's current sensor when released?
It's going to use the same sensor.
It's pretty universal.
Yeah. Whether we, it gets tricky when you're putting multiple devices that are reading from that same sensor. So,
yeah.
I'm looking at being able to display the ethanol content on the gauge, on the OEM cluster. So the gauge may become a little bit redundant.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see how it all fleshes out. But yeah, it'll use the same sensor. There's no reason to change to a different style sensor.
Yeah, and that's a very
it's
OEM.
Just an OEM sensor.
Yeah, it's not aftermarket or anything like that.
Yep.
Let's see. MQB breather plate. All right, so let's talk about this. So this is a stage 2 option for our MQB catch can kit. Nick, would you like to hand model?
This one doesn't have the focus either, so you're going to have to play with it a little.
So we currently offer an MQB engine catch can kit for the 2.0T in like the S3 and the GTI, the Gen 3 TSI motor. Our current catch can works with the factory breather plate PCV assembly on the top of the motor. And so we've had requests and feedback from customers who would like to replace that with a higher performing motorsport style unit. And so that's what this is. It's a little blurry there, but
yeah, we're kind of working with a fixed focus here.
You get the idea. Yeah. So that replaces the factory PCV assembly plate on the top of the motor, and basically once pressurized crankcase fumes from inside the motor come up into that plate, and there's a series of baffling inside here, which ultimately routes the output of the crankcase to this -10 AM fitting. And so that now goes to our catch can instead of the factory plate. And then it all goes back to the turbo inlet where the fumes are recirculated and any kind of hydrocarbons are burnt inside the intake manifold through the combustion process.
Yeah, and it's ultimately to try and eliminate some of that sloshing and the back feeding into the intake.
So we
get with a stock mount or stock piece.
We did benchmark this product against a few other options on the market, and one option that we tested, their solution is to basically block off the crankcase. So there's almost no air that can flow through their plate to the rest of the catch can system. So that doesn't seem like a good idea to us. These crankcase fumes and the pressure needs to be relieved. Otherwise, it can cause other issues like forcing oil from the crankcase up into the combustion chamber. You want the oil.
Your valve stem seals. Everything gets unduly.
The way the pistons work is that combustion pressure seats the rings, and it also prevents the oil from the crankcase to getting past the rings.
It can even cause problems with turbo oil drains and getting oil past the turbo shaft. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. If your crankcase is pressurized, oil can't drain out of your turbo. Certainly not as efficiently or quickly as it needs to, and so that oil can back up inside the turbo cartridge. And once that oil reaches a certain level inside the turbo, then that oil can go over the seals, and then you can have oil burning issues. And it's also not good for the turbo. Can damage the bearings. So you want the crankcase pressure relieved, and that's why our plate has a good flowing path for exhaust crankcase gases to escape.
Yep.
But with the baffling, it lets the air come out, but not the oil. And that's the key. And any oil that does come out of here gets caught by the catch can, drains back to your motor.
And that's the other thing. This is a preliminary catch device before it even
Yeah.
gets to our can now.
Yeah, and you still need the can with this.
Yep.
But together, we'll sell this as a stage 2 kit to work with our catch can. Together, they will work really well.
Yep.
I suppose we could also sell it for anyone who wants to
Just
do their own
standalone, yeah.
catch can setup as well. But we'll be releasing this soon. We're just doing the final testing on this as well. So,
Mhm. Yep.
All right, next question. Lower control arms and engine catch can for the 8S TTRS coming. Well, we are working on lower control arms. And the lower control arm ball joint solution, which would give possibly more camber and caster.
More caster too, yeah.
And also more geometrically correct for lowered cars.
Yep.
So there's a possibility for us to redesign the control arm to take into account the average lowering, which is about an inch on the TTRS with the aftermarket suspension. And then we can also move the ball joint position to give more camber and caster. So that's something we are working on. We don't have a release date, right? We're still doing the engineering on that. Yeah.
There's different requirements for each.
They have
track.
different setups. Yeah. The TTRS has a wider track, but I think we can either do something that works on both or one option for each.
Yeah.
And then the catch can, this comes up a lot. We're still evaluating whether that's something we want to do. We haven't seen a big need for it. There's not a lot of cars, burning engine oil under acceleration and crankcase. The big issue by far is the fuel starvation issue, which we're working very hard on. So there's also not a lot of room for a catch can in the TTRS. Or RS3. But again, I think the biggest issue is we haven't really seen a need for it. We've never actually had an issue burning crankcase oil in the intake tract of a DAZA motor. So we really don't want to release products that don't do anything. That's never our goal. So we're continuing to evaluate that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess for the people asking, I'd love to know if anyone has seen that issue. Because if you have, then that would certainly inform our desire to jump on it, for sure. Is chassis bracing in the works for MQB TTRS RS3? So I don't know who asked that, but what kind of chassis bracing? Are you looking for strut tie bar, rear, or the front suspension? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the MQB platform in general doesn't really lend itself to needing that because of the way the front subframe is designed.
Right, and to get anything that's substantially more than what's there, you're going to get pretty invasive into the chassis itself.
Yeah.
To give you mounting points where you're not just attaching it to a heat shield stud that happens to be there, or something else down along the tunnel. That's
what I was just going to say. There's plenty of products on the market that claim to, but we always have to laugh when we see these products because a lot of times they're literally, like Nate said, this big thick billet aluminum brace is attached to
thick aluminum.
a little 1/4-inch screw, which is designed to hold a heat shield on. So if that part of the car was even moving at all, it would snap that stud right.
Yeah, that kind of. Exactly.
So I mean,
it kind of shows how little forces.
Yeah, the fact that they're able to attach that rigid piece of brace to those little fasteners and that they don't break off shows you that there's just no flex in that part of the car. So there's a lot of scammy snake oil type products on the market. Again, that's not what we're interested in. And I really don't think that there's a big benefit to doing stiffening braces really anywhere on the MQB chassis. The MQB is probably hundreds of times stiffer than an Audi 4000.
Oh God, yeah.
Cars have become
those are basically
better designed.
Spaghetti noodles compared
those
to
cars you're driving. They feel like convertibles.
Yeah.
You can just feel the whole monocoupe twisting around. These new cars are so solid.
Yeah.
They really don't need much. Now the B8 did come with a pretty crappy design from the factory, and I'm not sure why they did that, but thanks Audi, because we were able to actually make a brace that actually does do something and work. But MQB just doesn't lend itself to that. The B9, it was the first thing we looked at to see if there was an X-brace opportunity. There wasn't. But that won't stop people from releasing products.
Yeah, there was the upper brace, which there was quite a bit of room for.
An upper strut brace would theoretically do something.
Well, for the B9 or
the B9, yes.
And the B8 on the upper and the B9.
Generally, I think any car can benefit from a better upper strut base, a strut tie bar. It certainly can't do any harm. And as long as, there are some B8 strut braces on the market that literally don't do anything.
It comes back to if it's just stamped steel or it's this single plane that you're working against, it's not going to work well. And there's others that are just like two rod ends. You put two rod ends on each end of a flexing point, and they're just going to do this.
Yeah.
It doesn't help any. There's no triangulation. There's no there's no effort to stop that total movement between the two.
And it's possible a rear hatch strut brace could do something. Again, that's a very stiff, triangulated part of the chassis. It's completely enclosed. You have, C-pillar coming up, and the whole rear subframe is in that. I mean, it's a very stiff, rigid part of the car. Some of the stuff we've seen with frivolous mounting points back there, again, it's snake oil. So if you see something that actually rigidly attaches to the car that should do something, it certainly could. But you just have to be careful.
If you could tow your car with it, essentially, I think you could think it was like does this seem strong enough?
You would need to be able to pretty much lift the car off the ground with it.
Right.
Otherwise, if you pull on it too hard and the little things rip out, it's that's just along for the ride.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of misconceptions about what works, and I think companies take it.
We're not trying to say there's no flex in these chassis. It's more what it would actually take to do it and eliminate it is beyond what most street cars are going to.
So our B8 strut brace is a good example of that. It's a pain in the butt to install. It's like a 10-hour installation. But we looked at all the easy ways to do it, and it was like, this isn't going to do anything. So if you want to stiffen up the front of your B8, you do our X brace, you do our strut brace, and that's actually going to stiffen the front of the car. And the feedback we get from customers, and certainly what we tested here, validates that. But we almost, it was like 10 plus hours to install this thing. Is anyone going to want to do it? Unfortunately,
we struggled with that for a while. We actually hung it up on our development board for some time because the install time was.
But it's a good selling product. A lot of people are buying it, and but it's there's no easy lunch. Sometimes there is, but not always. So I'd say the X brace was a pretty easy lunch. It's a quick install.
Yeah, and the B9 upper strut happened to be.
What motor oil does your shop use for the B8?
We use just normal Audi spec liquid moly. Nothing.
Liquid moly. Yeah, we use the factory. What is it? Do you know what the?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't know either. We have
other guys
an amazing
change for us.
service tech department that does that for us here.
But in general, unless there's a reason to change, we try and keep it as exact as what 99% of our customer base is running. So
these days, the factory spec oils are really good. I think if you had a built motor with forged piston, aftermarket forged pistons, at that point you're going to want to look at a heavier weight oil.
You really need to talk to your engine builder because that's going to come into play with your bearing tolerances.
But as long as you have a factory motor, definitely run the factory oil. It's they've spec'd that out for a reason. We currently are a liquid moly shop here.
Yep.
We buy it in 55-gallon drums. But I'd say as long as it meets factory specifications, I wouldn't put Pennzoil or something like that in one of these motors. You probably could, but there's really no reason. So any of the good online stores sell, liquid moly. If you're local here, you can come to our service department and buy 1-gallon jugs of it.
Yep.
So, or we can just, pour some in a bucket. Yeah.
But yeah, in general, on most of our vehicles, for any of the normal maintenance stuff, we try and run exactly what is called for,
Yeah.
just to not add another variable when we're calibrating and dealing with our testing.
Yeah, and I sometimes I see these discussions online about what oil you should run, and I think, I don't know. I mean, it's good to have fun talking about stuff, but a lot of times people are just talking out of their butts about what they think. This
Yeah,
or
unless
that
you've
is
got
supposed
some
to be.
scientifically studied reason for really moving around.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying there aren't guys that aren't at that level and discussing it, but yeah,
It's really good oil. I mean, the factory stuff it's better than anything that was out 20 years ago. It's like better than F1 oil, from the 80s or whatever, just the normal oil that the factory uses. So it's good stuff.
Yep.
When's tuning going to be available for the B9 S4? Well, if we just stopped all tuning development on everything else, we could get to that pretty
really
quickly.
quick, yeah.
And actually, we do need to do that sooner than later because. But right now our focus is mostly on 2.0T and B8.
Yeah.
We are working on DAZA as well. But B9 is coming. We just don't have a
B9 and
release
4
date.
liter are both very short on the horizon.
We're looking to hire another person in our tuning department. So if you have any tuning experience or know anyone who does, or you've run dynos and things like that, no OEM diesel applicants need to buy.
There's a lot of those.
Yeah. But no, we're looking for someone that would fit into the 034 Motorsport universe of product and tuning. So, but we are adding more resources, and there's some exciting things on the horizon for us that will expand our tuning abilities as well. So, hopefully we could get something out this year, but we're just not going to release it until it's right. And
yeah, I mean, for the B9 S4, there was like the day that ECU was flashable, this company's trying to release tunes, which they've never tested, never flashed, never run.
I mean, there is the tuning box stuff we're working on.
Yes, we do have tuning box stuff coming out.
Yeah. So we have a plug-in tuning box that you pop your hood, disconnect a couple of connectors, plug them into our tuning box, and that will be an intermediate step that we're basically ready to release that product. The engineering and development.
We've tested it. We've set it all up.
That's a nice bump in power. It's very noticeable and easy to reverse. For dealership trips and stuff like that. But the tuning will definitely give the most power. But keep your eye out for our tuning box, or shoot us a message or an email if you're interested in getting that or testing that. We'd like to work with you on that too. So how are we doing on time? Okay.
15 minutes.
Do B8 DSGs need alternate cooling? Would it be advantageous to do so?
For the DSG itself?
Yeah, DSG cooler.
Haven't seen a lot of need on it because we're not dealing with clutch slip, so the temperatures aren't really too much of a problem. So
it's one of those things. Maybe it couldn't hurt, but
no, it certainly wouldn't hurt.
Well, it would if it doesn't manage the temperature and the oil.
Well, sure, you could always make it worse, or you could over.
The oil needs to be at optimal
there's an operating
temperature,
range, or it gets all harsh and.
Which is pretty much why the factory mixes the engine coolant with the oil inside the heat exchanger.
And in the DSGs, you're literally pumping as needed through the cooling system, so it's a very managed cooling loop on those.
Right. I don't think there's a big need or advantage. We certainly haven't seen it. Possibly like on a track car that's doing
I don't know.
30.
We've had zero customers tell us about any overheating events.
Yeah. Again, it's something I think people do, but they don't necessarily know why they're doing it. So.
Or they're fixing some other problem. But
no, I'd say for the time being, that's not something we're looking at, not something we were considering. But again, if you've had the ECU monitors, DSG temp.
Oh yeah, no, it'll
overheat.
Your dash will turn into a Christmas tree if your DSG is overheating. You'll start losing. It'll do torque reductions on the ECU. Yeah. We leave all that in place, from a safety standpoint. So you'll still know if you're.
If you get that for some reason, let us know, and that's certainly something we would want to look at. But again.
Yeah, the only time I've seen it is when there was a legitimate fault within the DSG unit itself, and
So your car will
No
tell
amount of-
you if
yeah.
this has ever been a problem. Unlike older cars where, it just thinks it's overheating.
flip and burn into
Starts
oblivion.
smoking, yeah. Is there a strut brace option for SQ5s, B8, and B9?
That's another one that's pretty straightforward to do. It's just a
Yeah, we're working on a B8. It's in our engineering process. We still need to do some R&D on it.
Mhm.
But if you're interested in a strut brace for your SQ5, it's very similar to the B9 where you can unbolt it all and bolt in
Yeah.
stiffer pieces. Definitely let us know. The more enthusiasm we see for products, the more we can prioritize them. And the B9, we're just starting to put together our tuning program for the B9 SQ5, which is quite different than the B8.
Mhm.
Still a pretty new car. Are your wheel spacers balanced enough for track use? Just bought your 10 mil spacer to clear my TTS brakes, and my previous spacers gave a harsh noise under heavy braking.
that doesn't sound right.
Yeah, I don't think a spacer is ever going to really factor into your balancing. It's
I mean, if they're really poorly machined and not parallel,
maybe
don't
if
fit right, or
if there's like nothing on one side, I don't even know how you would do that.
if you have like a wedge-shaped spacer
Yeah.
where it's essentially not machined flat,
That's a whole other story. But our spacers themselves are plenty balanced enough inherently.
Yeah.
And since that mass is really close to the moment of the rotation, it's not going to cause, even if it was poorly balanced, which it isn't, it's still not going to cause an issue.
Yeah, I think what you might be experiencing is the lack of hub centricity, which is pretty
Right.
common at about a 10 millimeter size.
So that's what happens if the spacer isn't machined perfectly concentric to the two hub centric reference points. That would cause an issue. If it's not tight enough in one area or another, then your whole wheel can be mounted off center, and so now your wheel is not rotating evenly. And so I can confirm our spacers work excellent. We use them on all our company cars.
Mhm.
We've tested them in Mexico to very high speeds, and
Braking as well.
yeah. So no issues. You're gonna have no rubbing. If you do, please let us know, and we will jump all over that. But no, we don't have any issues with our wheel spacers. They are made by us, engineered by us. We're not just slapping a name on them like some other companies are. So we're very familiar.
And it's pretty astonishing how many revisions we've gone through for something that seems
Yeah.
so simple as a wheel spacer.
Yeah, we've made a number of changes.
Yeah, we're literally trying to make something that works from like a Audi 5000 up through a
Yeah.
B8, B9, S4.
Mhm.
There's a lot of nuances that are kind of silly between those.
Right.
Cambered wheel spacer.
Cambered wheel spacer, that might be coming up around next April.
Who requested that?
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe. We'll see. Mark II TTS tune question. Are you guys still updating it like the B8S4 tunes, or is it good as is?
It's good as is. Depends on,
It's really good. The only thing is, if there's an issue with it, then
Yep.
we'll definitely revise it. Or I think I mentioned last week, when we kind of do a breakthrough tuning engineering feature, or we crack into a certain type of table and are able to control things more precisely, when those apply to other ECU platforms, then we can port that coding over into those tunes as well. And so our 2.0 tune, like for the TTS, has been a beneficiary of those type of developments a number of times now. I don't know if there's been one real recently, but since we released it, it's been updated a number of times. Again, just to add those improvements. And certainly there was one issue where customers, the ECU would go into limp mode under a very specific condition and temperature in like one corner of one racetrack.
Yeah.
And
So if there's issues
we
like
were
that,
able to fix that.
yeah, we're always trying to obviously.
And we went to
isolate
we
those.
went to the track, and we were able to duplicate it at Thunder Hill. And once we were able to log that condition, then Nate was able to address that. So
that's the biggest thing with edge cases like that is really.
But we will make updates for certain, and we're enthusiastic to make improvements. And of course, if you own our tune, those are all available to you for no charge. So yeah. Do you guys plan on doing
Wi-Fi adapter.
Wi-Fi data? Sorry.
Yeah, Nick's typing
Someone's
right over it.
I can't-
His name's
literally
just
where I'm
covering
trying
it.
to read.
So yeah, are we planning on doing a Wi-Fi adapter for tuning and future use of coding?
Yeah.
It's not on our immediate horizon. Some of the hardware we're putting in for the flex fuel stuff actually can and does have some wireless connectivity,
Mhm.
but that's not the flashing cable. Flashing cable. There are some designs on the next gen cable that do actually allow for that. So, but it's nothing that we have a distinct roadmap for right now.
I mean, Wi-Fi sounds great, right? But then it can introduce.
There's
some
another,
issues
there's
as
a, yeah,
well.
there's a whole other troubleshooting and
So if the tune is going over the Wi-Fi and then something happens to the Wi-Fi, it can cause issues.
yeah,
so.
it's another link you got to deal with.
Blast. You
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
right. Maybe we'll SpaceX tap into theirs.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, we have some big plans for our cable moving forward, and even another generation of cable in the future, down the ways.
Yep.
So, hopefully we'll be able to continue adding those features for you guys. Brake kit suggestions for a track day with a novice driver. Well, this is I like this topic. So, if you're a novice driver, you really should go to the track with your car basically stock. I think there's a misconception that people have that you can't go to the track unless you've heavily modified.
You've upgraded everything.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, if you've never been on track and you want to add all of our Dynamic Plus parts to your car because it's fun on the street, it's going to be a good thing for the track too. But we would never say that you can't track your stock car, because actually a stock car is a great place to start.
Yeah. So and that's a big thing on your initial track driving experience and getting used to that in a from a high performance driving event is you're trying to learn what your vehicle does. And you're still learning how everything feels at those limits. And knowing where your brakes end is a good thing. You want to know what happens if you're using your brakes this much and then now they're getting too hot and now they're not working the same. The safest place to find that is on the track.
Yeah. I mean, I think if you're a novice driver, you're going to have a hard time out driving the stock car. However, I think after 2 or 3 track days, you could certainly start getting there if you're picking it up quick. And so at that point, I would say that really all you need are pads. Higher temperature pads.
Pads will get you a long way on brakes these days.
And I think for the novice to intermediate driver, good quality rotors with we used to carry our own line of pads, and we've pretty much stopped selling those for the most part just because there's so many good options out there. But pick up some Pagids, or Hawk makes some good pads. Just be careful. Some of the stuff you see like on Tire Rack and Amazon, they say they're track pads, but they're not. A lot of the EBC stuff is they're just glorified street pads. But like the Pagid RS14 is a great compound. The Hawk, well, I don't think so. I think those are just basically glorified. Those are some of the Hawk. What is the Blues? The 90.
Oh, the Blues. Yeah,
the
Blues are
called the 9012s. Google real quick. What's
I think
the
it's
Hawk
the 9012.
Blue? I think it's 9012. That is a badass pad, and we've been running those for years.
Buy rotors when you buy them.
Yeah, you're gonna go through. Any of these track pads, you're gonna go through rotors because they're much more abrasive than factory. The factory pads will just melt. But yeah, I mean, if you have good pads, the factory rotors or good aftermarket rotors will get you a long ways. My point is, don't feel like you have to spend $5,000 on a brake kit to go have a freaking blast at the track, because you definitely don't need to.
What you think? Yeah, if you've never been on track or never done anything, go with very open-minded attitude. It's not going to be what you might think.
Yeah,
it's a whole nother level of car control and
yeah. But the stock pads, I think they'll be okay for a novice, but you'll heat them really quickly once you start picking up some speed
Yep.
and going into corners. So keep that in mind. You're only going to be able to get so far with stock pads, but once you put in a good track rated pad, it's going to take your whole braking system to the next level. And then also, I really recommend doing some good brake fluid.
Fluid, yep, that's the next
We
thing.
run RBF 600.
And you don't have to know what to run. You can bring it to a good shop. We do a lot of track day prep for the Audi Club and some other clubs around us.
Yeah, so you can come into our shop, or you can buy RBF 600. There are others on the market. You just want something with a much higher boiling point. The factory fluid is pretty low in that regard. So, but the key is get out to the track, learn how to drive. If you overheat your brakes, fine. You'll survive. But the key is just get out there. Like you don't have to have a race car to go to the track. It's actually much better to go without one.
Save this question for next time. Someone asked if you can use piggyback ECU.
I saw that. Yeah. So yeah. The question was, can you use piggybacks on top of like strung out 2+ tunes, and that'd be a big no. It's not really going to get you anything. All it's going to do is
You should.
Yeah. It's the stacking tunes or stacking devices. It's not. Neither is designed to
No.
support that. The tuning boxes are designed to offset from a stock calibration. The calibrations are designed to deal with stock sensors and inputs.
Yeah, anyone that's stacking out there, you're doing it at your own risk.
Yeah.
I know lots of people do it, and I know the motor doesn't instantly blow up.
Yep.
But you're pushing your setup to a degree of risk from damage that no tuner is willing to accept. So if you do it at your own risk. And like Nate said, you may want to go to the dyno and see what you're really gaining, because you may just be stressing your setup with no real benefit to power or performance.
Yeah, I don't know what you would even get out of our 2+. That it's
On
not going to
the
request
B8?
more boost. We're not leaving a bunch of timing on the table. There's no
On the B8, no, but on the MQB.
Sure, yeah. There's
But
plenty of
most
people that do
MQB
stack.
turbos are maxed out. Like the wastegate's just shut all the time.
Or it's
Especially on like an IS-20 or IS-38. So there's not a lot more to get. But it could add more timing if you're tricking the ECU into giving it. So how are we doing on time? We're almost done. Okay.
We got to wrap up.
All right, we started a few minutes early. So we're gonna end a few minutes early so we can say goodbye. Thank you again for joining and participating. We really appreciate you guys hanging out with us. So
Absolutely.
have a good week, and we're here to help. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.